we've got to make sure that we hit all the high school guys that are going to be the upcoming seniors. So we're gathering that, and then we're trying, we're making sure on the JUCO guys that are still out there that we're being able to go and contact them as well.
Nice. All right. Guess what, everybody? We're live right here at 360 Performance and streaming on KUHS Denver. And in a minute, I'm going to introduce our guest formally. I'm jazzed. I'm excited about the show today because it's about new starts, future that looks really bright, strategies about putting the pieces together, making the connections, and seeing how they just get it done. Putting a strategy out there and helping people lift themselves up to a higher level of performance is a day-to-day exercise. Some would say that takes a lot of courage. Others would say, I'm not ready, can't do it, I'm just going to pass. But not the guest and the staff he's put together. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. But as we say every week when we have the show on Fridays at 11 o'clock, we talk about gratitude. That's how we start the show. And we talk about gratitude from the perspective of, what's it do for me? Why am I grateful? Because when you start with a grateful attitude, you get a smile on your face. You have a purpose in mind. So for me, I'm grateful for the opportunity to improve. Like this morning, I got out of bed, wasn't exactly excited about doing that, and I went and worked out. Opportunity to improve. So I'm going to ask our guest, before I formally introduce him to you, Coach K, what are you grateful for?
Oh man, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to influence others. And sometimes, just like you said, Doc, you got to remind yourself of that every single day. So.
There you go. I love that. So when we talk about influencing others and getting the chance to improve, let's take a look at some things that are around our world right now before we get into today's agenda about talking about building frameworks of excellence. That's what our theme is today, building frameworks of excellence. And we're going to focus on a football program. But before we do that, I just want to give you guys an idea of what's going on in our world in the next few days. Well, first of all, it's Good Friday, for those of you who celebrate it. Secondly, it's also the middle of the month of Ramadan, for those of you who celebrate that. And then we've got Passover, officially starts at sundown today, and has its first full day tomorrow for those of the Jewish faith. And when I look at those celebrations, I think of the word of freedom, because each one of those celebrations is celebrating freedom, the freedom to worship, the freedom to speak your mind, the freedom to make a choice about investigating who you are through desperation and not eating, just starving your body and mind for a moment to really get deeper into your reflections. Now I hesitate because I'm on the edge of being too spiritual for some, but for others it's a foundation for motivation and building what's true about you in those celebrations. And that's why it's so free. And I was reminded this morning when I thought about this, about love. You got to make sure with that freedom comes that emotional positioning of being grateful for others and loving them for who they are. And that's a challenge for today for a lot of people as we come out of this pandemic. So I thought of this quote. Every Monday I post a mindset moment with a quote from somebody that will represent our guidance towards our Friday theme. And today's quote, or our Monday's quote for our mindset moment, goes like this: you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And that came from Martin Luther King. And that's just so appropriate for today. So Coach K, Miles Kochevar, has a staircase in front of him. He's got a vision of what that staircase looks like. And he's taken more than a few steps in the last few weeks about getting it going towards the future. And he is the head coach of the Colorado Mesa University football team. It's his first head coaching position, I believe, right, Miles? Is it your first head coaching position?
Correct.
And
correct.
Miles goes back enough with me that he was actually my student. And yet, with that being said, I've always respected and trusted him in his ability to find a path that fits who he is and guide others towards excellence through that path. So Miles, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Doc. I appreciate it, man. It's awesome and just crazy how this thing goes full circle.
Yeah,
Being able to sit in and listen to you lecture and teach me the ways and then be able to go and put some of those teachings into action has been awesome.
excellent. That's such a great setup for our first question. You know, you've got this opportunity. It's with a program that is like going back home for you in a lot of ways. So what are some of the challenges you're facing and will face for creating this program and the framework of excellence that you want to have?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and you already spoke on it with the quote, is taking that first step, you know, and it's one step at a time. And you got to remember that as you got to be able to narrow your focus, because when you first get into it and you try to look at the big picture, and it can be overwhelming and overtaking. But when you realize that you can go and knock it out one step at a time and influence somebody every day in a different way, it just makes what you do special. And for me, Lowell, it's been a complete return home. And it's a kind of a journey that I set out on over 10 years ago and was here, and I'm back in my original office when I started coaching here at Colorado Mesa, and to be able to make that go full circle and then go and fulfill it and have the opportunity to come and lead these young men, it's still something that hasn't even sank all the way in yet. But to be here and have that opportunity is just awesome. And each day it's going to present a new challenge. And that's the big thing that I got to realize. And sometimes you got to be able to sit back and you got to reach out to your resources to be able to help you and guide these guys and keep and continue to point them in the right direction.
So with that being said, Miles, give me an understanding in our audience about your journey to this place and time now. Because you came out of college, you played the game, and then you went in, you did what after you got out of college? What was your first coaching job, and where did you progress from there?
Oh yeah, like you said, you know, I grew up right here in Grand Junction, Colorado. Then I had the opportunity to go and play for a great coach and Sonny Lubick at Colorado State University. Then when I got done, I didn't know what I was going to do. Like so many young men, you're kind of searching. That game's going to quit us all at some point. Wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but actually ended up coming back home to help and develop a subdivision. Coach Romano was here, and he was the head coach and a great leader and mentor of mine. Found out that I was in town. He gave me a call, and he asked me to come down and visit with him a little bit. Well, that turned into a job opportunity to be right here at Mesa State College at the time and coach the defensive backs. So it's just crazy how it worked. And then, you know, I got into that coaching, and I was like, this is pretty dang up.
Miles, I lost your audio.
All right, you got me back on there?
Yep, we do. So you came back to Mesa to coach, and how'd you finish with that, and where'd you go from there?
Well, I mean, you know, the real world kind of hit me. Coach Romano and the university, they decided to go in a different direction. So now I was just kind of eye-opened with the coaching profession and the business side of it. And, you know, I was lucky enough to be retained with Coach Russ Martin over here at Mesa when he came in 2011. And, you know, Coach Martin challenged me. He said, Miles, where do you see yourself and what do you want to do? I said, well, Coach, I would love to have the opportunity to be in your seat one day, be right here in my hometown and be the head coach at Colorado Mesa University. He said, well, I'll tell you what, let's give you those resources to get out there and get it done. And then it just kind of went full circle from there, you know, and it really was the next week that I met Coach McElwain and had the opportunity to go back to Colorado State, get my master's, and work with them as they kind of rebuilt the program over there. So, and then it became a move every 2 years, and then here I am today. So.
Yeah, you became the journeyman of college football coaching. You get in that figurative bus and you just journey, you just go from one place to the next. But when you gathered up all that experience and those insights, what are some of the things that you learned that you're now going to be able to focus on with your head coaching position at Mesa? Because I know you're going to be on the bus, literally on the bus, in May, going and finding those wonderful, talented young men.
Well, the first thing that I learned, and you take a little bit from everywhere that you go, right? And I've been very blessed to be able to work under some great men, and each kind of brought a different quality to me. And you take a little bit so that you can make yourself who you're going to be when you have that opportunity. But the first thing is you got to have a foundation, and you got to stand for something.
Yeah.
And as we build this here at Colorado Mesa, and as I built the staff, and as we build this culture and set the standard, we want to have that foundation for success that can be sustained, not only on the football field, but as you spoke on, it's a crazy world out there right now, and the only way that it's going to change is if we really can help develop these future leaders of America. So as we do that, we want the guys with upstanding character, that represent themselves, their family, and their faith in everything that they do. And it's been awesome being able to get a part of this team and know these guys that were here and know that, hey, we're all going to be one. We aren't out to get anybody. We're here to bring this thing together, because the only way that something special can happen and championships happen is when we get everybody moving in that common direction. But it's bigger than football. The football part takes care of itself. It's about real relationships and guys buying in and playing for one another. And when we can do that, and that's when those championships will come.
Miles, when you said that, I'm reminded that what you say is what you do. So you've brought together a family in your coaching staff. So talk a little bit about the Mavericks that you have on your coaching staff.
Well, it was awesome just kind of getting to go through the process, and actually wasn't a lot of work because the guys that I knew and that I knew that could be special here and help influence these guys, they were all jumped at the opportunity. The first one was a guy that I actually was part of the coaching staff when he played here, and Trevor Wickery, and he's came and he's doing the O-line, and Trevor, he just bleeds the maroon. He loves this place, and then just a great man of character that, is a great coach, great father, great husband, and that's what you want to have around these guys so that they can develop for the future as they take this next step in their life. And Trev was on board, and shoot, before I even got him the paperwork, he was leaving. He was up in Oregon, and he was in the car and on his way. So I think he beat me over here. So it was awesome.
Well, and Miles, he's the only guy I know that literally left a part of his body on the field.
He did, man, and that just shows you his commitment to the program and what kind of man he is. So.
Yeah, I have to echo that feeling myself as well. So who's next on this wonderful list of characters?
Well, we'll just stay on the offensive side of the ball, and then Rodney Freeman was a guy that I had the opportunity to work with at West Texas A&M, and I was just encouraged by him and the way that he was able to teach the game and then teach the life skills that went along with it. Plays our coaches with great emotion and energy all the time. And I knew that once I had the opportunity to do this, that Rodney would be a guy that I definitely wanted to get on board. And it's been unique. So Rodney, same thing. He said, all right, I'm in, let's go. Got in the car and headed up here. And then we realized, about a week into it, you're working, you're trying to get everything organized. Well, we have to get the family here. Rodney's got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and his wife. He left them in Houston to get up here and get this thing rolling with me. So we had his family and mine up till last week. We were all living in the same house with Coach Matthews. So yeah. We've had a full house, man, and it's been fun. So with Coach Freeman and his 3-year-old and his 1-year-old, and I have one that'll be 3 on Sunday, and a 8-month-old. So we've had a full house and a lot of action here in the last couple months.
That is awesome. So you've got one of the biggest characters I know in the game of football as well as on the streets, and that's Crockett Gilmore. So speak a little bit about Crockett Gilmore and his approach to bringing the kind of defense that frameworks your team and the success it's going to have.
Well, we know our foundation has to be made of toughness, and we got to win the line of scrimmage and everything that we do. So getting Trev on the offensive side, and then, Crockett and I had stayed in contact really ever since our days at Colorado State when he was playing for Mac, and had the opportunity to work with him, go to class with him, and got to know him on a different level, which was awesome. And then, Crockett had the opportunity to go on and play in the NFL and was a 3rd-round pick, and he kind of lived out his dream. and he was still chasing that dream. And when I was at West Texas A&M, and Crockett's hometown was about 20 minutes down the road in Bushland, and he was back doing some rehab, and I had the opportunity to get him involved over at West Texas. And right away it was evident, just in the way that he was able to coach and teach, and the passion that he has for the game can't be replaced and it can't be faked. So I knew that it was going to be important to be able to get him. And Coach Crockett wanted to see, we were talking about some recruits, what was going on, and I said, Crockett, he didn't even know that I had got the job over here at Mesa. I said, Crockett, I got this opportunity over here, man, and what are you doing? Are you done playing the game? And he said, Coach, I'm done. I'm ready to coach and move on. And 10 surgeries later, it's time to hang up the cleats. So, same thing. Once I presented that to Crockett, we didn't even have a contract or a dollar amount. He was in his car and headed over to get here to Grand Junction and be a part of this. So it's been awesome to have him on board. And, our family at CSU, it's just grown, and now we're over here at Colorado Mesa. I had the opportunity also to bring Trent Matthews with me, and guy that I really had a special relationship with when I was at Colorado State. Was able to coach him firsthand and watch him kind of on his journey through life now with his getting married and 2 kids and coaching and doing all that stuff. So I said, Trent, I want you to come and be a part of this, man. And he said, Coach, I'm in. I'd be honored. And it's been fun and awesome and just encouraging to watch the passion that those guys have. They've been doing their best and getting after it every single day. And not just on the football part. We got a group that we got to really bring together. And that's been a challenge. And it's not something that happens overnight. Relationships are hard, and they develop a lot of trust. And that's not something that's just given. You got to be able to go and you got to earn it. You got to be able to look these guys in the eye, and they got to know that you are there and you love them. And you can say that and you can talk about it, but till they see it, it takes some time. But watching those guys go to work and every single day get to know these guys and show them that they're here for them and they want to help them with their dreams and aspirations, it's been awesome. And watching those guys just do it firsthand and do it with a ton of energy. So we're excited about that. And then I also got Coach Tom Fennell on the offensive side of the ball. He's also a former Ram from the 80s. And our relationship began over 20 years ago. And I really thought when, we always talked about this, if I got this opportunity, he'd love to be a part of it. He stayed put, and he's been in the same place for 30-plus years in Denver in the same home. And never, he's had some opportunities and never did that just because of his family and the importance that he had. But he was in a point in his life where he could make it happen. And when I actually presented him with it, I was shocked when he said yes, and he was here that next afternoon. So it's been awesome just building this thing. And I was also able to bring with me a guy from Pueblo that's been awesome watching him grow. And that's a young man in Nick Broughton. He started as a volunteer. And he's a coach's kid, and he played at Mesa Ridge, and that's how I knew him. I recruited there back when I was here at Mesa originally and developed a relationship with Rob Broughton, and then I kind of followed Nick through his journey, and he went and played at Nebraska Westland, and then came back and he wanted to coach. I said, "You're too smart to coach," but we got him to volunteer over at Pueblo, and then he went into a graduate assistant and got promoted, and then I was able to promote him at outside backers while we were over there. But guy that's just been instrumental in kind of bringing this whole thing together for me.
So you're going to be in the recruiting mode in May. When you talk to these young men and you try to communicate your mission, your vision, and you get down to the nitty-gritty, the nubs, about what you want to see in them. What is your message to that recruit, that high school player, about their opportunity and the chances they have on your squad with your coaches? What are you going to say to them?
Well, it kind of goes, we don't want to sugarcoat anything, and that's what I've really stressed to these guys as we go. We want to find the guys that are the right fit for us, and we want to be the right fit for them. So we want to be very transparent in everything that we do with our communication. And the first thing is, nothing is going to be given, everything is going to be earned. And if you don't want that, you're going to the wrong place. We want our competition within our team and everything that we do to be the best that you're going to see week in and week out during the season. So we just lay that expectation out, Doc, as we go, and we make it very clear that what the standard is going to be. And it's not only being successful on the field and at practice and in the weight room, but we're going to class and we're competing in the classroom. We want to have the highest GPA as any of the departments here in athletics or on campus. There's no reason. We've got the tools for success, and we want the guys that are hungry and eager to move on and take that next step as they develop and they go from, really teens and they become men. And that's our mission as we go. We want to develop you into the best man that you can be for the next 40 to 50 years of your life. Best father, best husband, all those things. And we spend a lot more time talking about life than we do about football, because we want to make sure that they have the right mindset coming in here. And we're going to have more success with those guys, and we're going to have a great retention if we're very clear and transparent with where we're going.
You know, you had some challenges with those messages when you first came in, with the players that you currently retained, but some players you didn't, because they didn't have the courage, they didn't have to get after it enough to want to stick with your message. So what is left, and what gaps do you have that you want to try to fill?
Man, you know what? It's really started to make a change in these last 3 practices that we've had. It's been fun because now these guys are starting to embrace it. And then that's when you can really enjoy the game, when everybody's moving in that same direction. So, yeah, we lost some guys. And now I think our guys that we currently have kind of wrapped their head around, well, these ones that we got are pretty special. They've put in a lot of work thus far this spring. And they're starting to push each other in a different way than what was here before. So it's been fun to watch them challenge each other, and then at the same time uplift one another. And they're doing a good job of that every single day, of creating that within and the buy-in for the whole team. And they understand that there can't be any guy left behind, and we're only as strong as our weakest.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get those guys on the same page, and we've had some great leadership as we've gone through that. And it's been fun to watch our quarterback and him go to work, and he's got high expectations for what he wants to do, not only individually, but as a team. And they understands that with great team success is when you start to get some of those individual awards as well. So it's been fun watching those guys and watch them rally. So it's been interesting.
So what communities should be looking out for the Maroon to come into their neighborhoods as a Maverick and investigate their talent? Are you going to hit particular neighborhoods, or is any place open in the state of Colorado?
Well, our goal right now is we've got to go out and we've got to be able to dominate the state of Colorado. We've got a hidden gym over here in Grand Junction, and it's hard for me to say that because I knew how special it was, but once you really get into this and you get your feet out on the pavement and you understand people haven't came over, being on the far west side of the state, and what they've been able to do with this university. When I was first here in 2006, 2007, we barely had an enrollment of 4,000, and now we're pushing upwards of 11,000 plus, and it's its own community within the community. So, we have some high aspirations as we go over here, but it starts with winning Colorado in recruiting and getting those guys the opportunity to come over and check us out. Because if they want to go to a place with a true university feel and setting and have great support, Grand Junction's a place. There's not another place like it in the RMAC. They're going to be able to come and be a part of something special.
So let's do some shout outs, because the other thing that's special is community. And the businesses that have shared their excitement and dollars with Mesa Athletics didn't always focus in on football. So where are some of those allies, and give some shout outs to them and tell them how special they are right now with the audience we have today. Are there any particular businesses that have stuck with the Mavs and really are there for you in the future?
Oh, you know what? It's been just overwhelming with the community's support, and people want to see us have great success. And we've talked about this as I went through this interview process, and President Marshall, his vision for Colorado Mesa University, as a whole, and then the football he knows is a big part of that. So as we go and seeing all these different community members jump back on board and be a part of this with us has been huge. And it really started at the top. You know, I can name hundreds of them really as we go, but you know, Homegrown Bank and Jamie Hamilton, he's been a huge supporter of CMU for a lot of years, and just been instrumental in helping us get our feet wet and hit this thing running. You know, and then Jay and Brandy Fisher over at Fisher's Liquor Barn and Fisher's Meat, they've done an awesome job at just their outreach, and it doesn't stop. You know, Phil Pay and some of the alumni that, you know, have been a part of this thing for a long time. But they want to get this thing to the next level. How do we go and become the premier Division II program and go sustain winning and win championships? And that's been what's awesome with the community members and getting them on board, to have them be a part of this and you know, really put what we need is we got to have financial support to make it work. So having their backing and then getting everybody else involved. So and we've had a number of people that have reached out that want to feed us, want to help us with this and then help us with that. And we've got to be able to take advantage of that. We can't let that fall through the crack. And we got to let our community know how important that is and how much we appreciate that with us getting out in the community and supporting the community as well.
So Miles, you have a great history of support for Mesa Athletics, especially as it grew. As you mentioned, it's doubled and almost tripled since the time you were there as an undergrad. And that's a huge compliment to the desires of the community to be scholastic, to use athletics as a foundation to develop that scholastic mindset, because it is student-athlete. It's not athlete-student. So we still have that educational component to it. So what are some community programs that you know you want to kind of focus in on for the football program and offer to your staff and your roster to participate in?
There's so many of them, but a couple that stick out today, so we're kind of going to get a little from a great community member and business member, and then Clark & Company today. I'm actually taking the seniors, and we're going to go and they're going to get cultured a little bit today, and they're going to go to work this afternoon. We're going to head out. We got about 100 head of cattle that we're going to go and assist in the brand, and which will be an eye opener and just a great experience for our guys.
Oh, the smell alone will get you.
The smell alone, but we've had a lot of guys that have just never experienced that at all.
That's awesome.
Just being able to be a part of that and then go out and being able to take part in that's going to be awesome. And then we're going to help them with some different things throughout this year with some different projects and outreach things to help clean up the community. So we're excited about that. And then on Monday when we come back, you know, we're going to skip meetings on Monday, and we're going to go out and we're going to do Challengers baseball. And it's been something that I've been a part of since the early 2000s, and we're going to be able to go out and assist those that are not quite as fortunate as us. Is kind of how I put it for our guys, and we're excited. So we're going to get all 75 of us out there. We're going to go over to Canyon View Park on Monday, and we're going to play baseball and be able to have a good time giving back to the community. And then as we look at this, we got some different reading with the Mavs going on, so we want to get involved in the school district, and we want to be a huge supporter as we go. And you kind of, what we want to do then is we get to next year, we want to be there on the first day of school. We want to encourage these guys to have fun and be excited to go to school. So we'll go and hit the local elementary schools and be able to greet them on the first day and just let them know that we're there for them and pumped up to see them get into school and going. And you hit it, Doc, on that thing. It's easy to be a student. It's easy to be an athlete. It's really tough to be a student athlete. Yeah. And that's where it's got to take that special guy, and that's where we're hitting in the recruiting. And, you know, one guy I forgot to mention, I want to mention though, is Coach Todd Macon. And he was here, and he did a great job of keeping these guys together. And it was important to me, and then really after our first meeting, that I find a spot for him and able to keep it. And he's been instrumental in holding this thing together, and then with recruiting and helping us, you know, with the ins and outs and the operations side of things here at Mesa. So, and Todd's a young coach, and he played at Liberty University, and he's a Florida guy. So I always give him a hard time. I said, this weather's not quite right for you. But he's found and grown to love Colorado and Grand Junction. more specifically. So it's been fun watching and listening to him coach and learning how he coaches.
Let's take a little bit of a commercial break, but it's going to be all about Mesa University. Colorado Mesa University out in Grand Junction, Colorado, is not just an athletic site like our show is talking about today. It is an academic center as well. If you need information about Colorado Mesa University, that's what you do, coloradomesauniversity.edu, and check out their website. But Coach Kay, I want you to share with people, how do they get in touch with you about your program, and maybe even share with you some of their wealth and support in a financial way? What's the best way for them to do that with you?
Well, we've got a couple of different things coming up, and one, the first one as we go, the best way to get in touch with me is it just, like it's on my screen here, I don't know if they can see that, but it's mcoachaver@coloradomesa.edu or @CoachAver on Twitter. Just reach out and follow us on Twitter, and then follow Mavs Football on Twitter, because we're going to be putting a lot of stuff out there as we continue to move forward. One big thing that we got going on coming up here in April, at the end of it, April 29th, is going to be Ball at the Bar. So we'll be over here at the Lincoln Park Bar, and that's the night before our spring game. We're going to have live music and the dinner, and it's going to get to know the Mavs, know the coaching staff, and then we're going to have some of our players talk. So that's one way to initially get involved, and your support would always be greatly appreciated.
What's the spring game date and time, Miles?
We're going to be going April 30th. That's a Saturday, and we're going to be going at 10 a.m. to noon.
Excellent. So let's make sure we spell it out. It's M as in Mike, KOCHEVAR at
coloradomesa.edu.
There you go. That's his email, and you can actively communicate with him. But if you want to send him money, just tell him that. Where can I send you money? I'm not going to be shy about it. I'm just going to tell it like it is. Send money. And make sure that Coach Avar has the understanding of who you are and where that comes from. And that's somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but it's a reality. Programs these days in recreation and sports need our support, because kids need a place to play. And in this case, play at a level of competition that is challenging. And as far as the Mavs are concerned, as Coach Avar has said, we're not giving up. We're going to bring it to you. We're not going to hesitate. It's all about how we adjust to you, and that we're not transparent in our delivery of our skill. So with that being said, Miles, talk to me a little bit about the RMAC competition. What and where is the competition going to come from?
Oh, you know what? The RMAC has made great strides. So right now it's all the way through and through, but just a couple of teams that really stuck out as of late. Obviously, Colorado School of Mine. They've done a great job of identifying their recruiting and how to be successful. They were a co-champion last year and went all the way to the semifinals. So they're obviously right now that they're at the top, and they're a team that we got to go and we got to compete with and be able to knock off. And then Western State, and they did a great job last year, and they were co-champions. And Coach Baines did a great job of putting that thing together, and they're riding with a lot of confidence right now, and that's always a big rival for us. One of our closest games, and we got to be able to go and knock them off. And, we own one from last year, so we got to go and get after them. And then, as always, CSU Pueblo. Coach Wilson's done a great job of building a program down there, bringing it back from scratch, and year in and year out. You can't expect anything less from them. We've got to go and we've got to be able to take it to them. We can't sit back and wait for something to happen. We've got to go and force the action and get after all these guys as we move forward. So I think the RMAC has really changed in its demographic. It's a power to be reckoned with year in and year out. Top in the region, and guys are going and having success in the playoffs. And now it's time for us to be able to go and make that push and make a name for us over here in Grand Junction. So it's not going to be one team in particular. We're coming for them all, and we expect to win. And if we did it and we had a different mindset, then we're in the wrong profession.
So, Miles, you talk about the competition, and without giving up too many secrets, what is your philosophy about the game on both sides of the ball. So let's start with offense. What's your offensive philosophy going into this season for the Mavs?
I told these guys, and I've got asked that question a lot. You know what I've just came down to is score, touchdown, right? Now, we come into an interesting, situation, and that's what we've had to make sure as a coaching staff we don't try to do too much. We got to learn what they can do this spring, and then we got to be able to utilize it, right? So, we're going to be a balanced offense, and we're going to do whatever is necessary to win the game. When we got to run the ball, we're going to run the ball. When we got to throw the ball, we're going to throw the ball. And it's simple. The game hasn't changed. There's only two things that you can do. So we've got to get good at what we do and be able to get our identity. And we know we got to win the line of scrimmage, and we got to do a good job of being physical. So when it comes down to the offensive side of the ball, I said, it's not that hard, fellas. Go score some touchdowns, and we'll be all right.
So you've got three aspects to the game, and many times coaches focus on O&D, but there's that third component, the special teams world. And special teams has had some changes to it. The game hasn't changed very much, but the rules tend to adjust here and there. And special teams seems to have gotten the biggest impact on rule changes, and in some cases limiting their abilities to really get after it. How, if any, is that going to affect you, and what do you expect out of the special teams?
Well, we've got to be able to go and dominate in all three phases, and we've got to make sure that we hold the utmost importance to special teams, because we can go out and we can give ourselves a big advantage. And we got a good kicker and Diaz right now that did a great job, and statistically was on top of the conference last year. So we got to be able to utilize him. He's a weapon. When we got an opportunity to put points on the board, we can't leave him out there. Right, and then we've got to be able to be attack on special teams, we'll put it that way, right? We want to be able to utilize it to our advantage. We've got to be able to set both our offensive and defensive unit up for success, and you do that by playing great special teams. Give yourself the best odds and the best advantage to win.
I like what you said there, because, and as you were talking, I was mindful of Coach Hammer at CSU and special teams, and the discipline that he brought to that aspect of the game, where many coaches will forget those details. And Hammerschmidt went on to the NFL to coach in special teams and is still there. So when you look at the word discipline, what are some things that you want to make sure you communicate to recruits and your current players about discipline and the application of discipline in the game?
Well, it's taking care of the little things, and the little things matter, right? And when we do that in everything that we do, okay, it'll happen on the football field as well. So it has to be important, and it's not something that you can turn on and off, right? So we talk about that a lot with it as we go, right? Having the proper attire on at practice, having my helmet strapped up, being ready to go. All those things are going to add up and make us be very disciplined in everything that we do, right? Not being offsides, being behind the line, all those little things, okay? When we don't take them for granted or do them nonchalantly, they start to become a habit. And then it becomes and it forms into that excellence that we need it to. So that's the big thing that we're hitting on these guys every single day, right? Take care of your business, be on time, be early. All that stuff carries over onto the football field, and when we master that, then we'll be a force to be reckoned with.
And as you know, if they master that, it gives them a greater chance of moving forward into higher levels of performance outside of college, could be the pros, or outside of college into a job. And I'll remind you of a story that I think you're aware of with an NFL player. He's currently with a new franchise. Wide receiver, and I'll mention his name in a minute and see if your face recognizes who I'm talking about. When he was a freshman and he was running routes, when it was 1-on-2 or 2-on-2 or 1-on-3, he didn't finish his routes because the ball wasn't going to get thrown to him. He wouldn't run all the way to the end zone. And so he would nonchalantly come back down the sideline. Well, you know the rules. You sprint to finish and you sprint to come back, because if you don't, your turn might be up again really quickly. And so Hollywood was one of those who learned, and I think the discipline, if he admits it to himself and others, that discipline helped him become a pro.
Oh yeah, and you know what? It's really taken him to new limits. And it's funny you said Hollywood and Richard, man, he was awesome. He was actually one of my first recruits that I had when I was a young coach at Colorado State. And my brother will tell you to this day that he signed because on his trip we had to stop by the house and do some things, and my brother and him were out chopping it up in the front yard, and he was telling him how great Fort Collins was and all those things. But just to watch his progression, and at some point it's going to click when you continue and you hear it time after time after time, and you're held to that standard. And for him, it did, and it's taken him to new heights, and he's been able to have great success, and it's been fun watching him go out and perform on Sundays.
Well, and you know, we have more than just one example. Richard Higgins, or Hollywood, Richard Hollywood Higgins is one that we can reflect on a lot, but there's also people like Weston Richburg, the staff member. You've got Crockett Gilmore, Garrett Grayson, all went on in the time that you and I spent together at CSU in those 3 years, helping them move forward. It was quite an interesting thing to look at. But I also want to mention that and ask you if these are goals that you might set. You know, we have players that are going to have eligibility beyond their undergraduate years. And at Colorado State, we increased the amount of master's degrees, individual players and coaches far beyond what they've ever had in the past. We also reduced the amount of aggressive incidences on campus, the behavior of football players and athletes on campus, bad behavior, was reduced dramatically. And as you know, the year before McElwain got there, we had some incidences on campus of bad behavior, violent behavior. And I'm wondering if those goals are ones you want to share with players. Are you going to share with players, or maybe you have already, about what discipline does on campus for you to sustain yourself as a true student athlete?
Yeah, and it's something that we harp on every day, right? And being able to give back. And a big thing for these guys is that young athletes, and you know, they got to remember when they get to a university, and we want to make sure that we remind them, remember who you are and where you come from.
Yeah.
Right. And then when we communicate that and then make sure that that's in the back of their head and everything that they do and who they're representing, and then you represent your family, you represent yourself, this team, this university. You know, it takes care of a lot of issues because, but when that standard is laid out and they understand the expectation, right? We don't want you just to go through the business program. We want you to go and we want to be a 3.0 or better. And now you're a student athlete, you're a captain on the football team, and then you're also top of your class. Well, that's going to go a long way in the real world. And it's going to help you go out, perform others, and get that job that can really change your life.
Yeah.
And that's what we tell them. You know, this football is a very small part of it. You know, as we all know, the NFL stands for not for long. So if you are lucky enough to be able to get to that level, it's not going to last long. So we got to be able to set yourself up to be successful. And these guys do a great job now. And the universities have done a great job as well. And here at Mesa with our 3-2 programs, where, you know, in that same time, and you can go and get your undergrad and your master's in 5 years. So if you come in and you redshirt, that's the expectation of what you should be shooting for. But, you know, it happens at a different time for everybody. And at some point, you know, you've got to realize that we got to try to expedite that process. So it happens sooner than later, and they understand the importance and the money that it costs to fail a class or to not finish a class, right? That's like just taking your money. And our guys, you know, we can do a good job at the Division II level. Nobody's on a full ride scholarship. So we've got to, you know, utilize our resources that we have. And if you don't do that, you're just taking that money and throwing it away. So we got to do a better job with our time and our management, and then set them up with those resources to be successful as well.
You know, you're setting up a great foundation for the framework of success that you're looking for. And one of those components that I want to end the show with is that 12th man, that fan in the stand that's looking at what you're doing, watching with the community involvement you have. They get excited. You know, those fans, they get excited, and they project their own desires through the players, through the teams. That being said, as a coach, what message do you want to send that fan in the stand about your expectations of their behavior on game day, and maybe even before game day? as to how they represent the Mavs and the football program's mission and vision for the future?
Well, as we look at that, is the biggest thing that I want to tell them is that we need you. We need you for our young men as they continue to grow and develop. So what I mean when I say that, Doc, is I want the community to be a part of it. I want them to come in here and know and get to know our guys on a personal level, right? And again, we talked about relationships aren't easy, and they need to understand where our guys are coming from and the backgrounds that they're coming from, and share their stories on both sides with the community, because they'll find out that they got a lot more in common than they think, and how much their support means to our young men. You know, they had a great homecoming last year. That should be the expectation, and that should be the standard. We should have 15,000 people here every single Saturday to come and support the Mavs, and we need you, and we need you guys to be on board. I don't think it can ever be measured how infectious the enthusiasm can be, and how much it helps our guys on game day, knowing that they have the support of the community and just watching the excitement that it brings. But that goes hand in hand with our guys, you know, reaching out and being part of this Challengers program, being part of the youth programs, and putting themselves out there in the community as well.
Miles, do you have any coaching staff openings that you need to fill? Because you can send a message now if you have a, you know, kind of recruit your openings if you have any openings. Anything you want to share?
Yeah, currently we're sitting pretty good. You know, so we will have a couple hopefully opportunities coming in the near future. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if I do, I'll have to get back on here with you, Jack, and then we can make sure that we push it through.
Yeah, so stay in touch with Coach K. You know where to get him. He's at mkochevar. That's MKOCHEVAR at coloradomesauniversity.edu. Just send him an email and give him a moment. Take a breath. Got a lot of stuff going on, but he'll get back to you. So in closing out the show today, Miles, share with our audience and those soon-to-be new Mavericks fans, what you want them to take away from today's session with you. What are some of those really points that you want to have rise to the top and for them to remember at the end of today's show to take away from here?
Well, as we look at this thing, it's about Mavs for life for us. And that's what we want to develop these guys into, where they're upstanding individuals, and we're going to go and we're going to win a lot of football games, but Mavs for life is something bigger than that. Just being able to be there for one another, as we all know, life can be hard, and we need as much support as we can get, and that's what we want to develop these guys into, is a true brotherhood and family, where they're there for one another, there for their community, and there for this university. So we're excited about where we're going, and we just can't wait to get there in the fall. So it'll be awesome.
When does the fall season start?
We kick off September 1st against William and Jewel.
Excellent. Is that a home game?
That'll be an away game, so we're gonna get a little bus time in and a little bit more bonding time right at the beginning. So it'll be awesome.
Be interested to know what the music and the video choices are on that bus trip.
Right.
Listen, everybody, as we close, I'm gonna ask Coach Miles to stick with me once we go off air, but I'm gonna share with you right now what I want you to take away from today is that you have seen a representation of the quality of character of one young man who's brought a number of young men together to continue to honor the game that they love, a game that they've played since they were very, very small. And it's because of that interaction and that participation that creates that love and that character of it. But it's also because of the relationships that generates that feeling of family, that feeling of caring for one another at a level that's beyond just day to day. It's in your gut because you know who they are. You know that they protected you and had your back when you needed it. And they knew you needed it because of that interaction and that sharing. So the future that you can control is a mission and vision that Coach K has for his team, his staff, and all that participate in the Mavericks programs. That future doesn't necessarily mean football, because NFL, not for long, is a reality. Less than 2% of college athletes get a chance, even an invitation, to go to the NFL. And if they do succeed and go beyond that, they're still the NFL, not for long. Many of them have less than a 4-year average tenure in the game. Defensive backs, linebackers, they have less than a 5-year history in the game of football once they make it to the NFL. And much of that might be dealing with managing injuries. So this is the time. The college time is a wonderful, wonderful time. I hope you'll support Colorado Mesa University and all that they do, but in particular, Mesa football. Well, as we say goodbye for today, Coach K, I want you to make sure you watch the chocolate. Make sure that you're out there hiding the eggs where they can find them. Don't make them embarrassed that they can't, and maybe even point to it so that the little ones can find them. And please, if you would just honor me a little bit, the Pez eggs and the Pez chicks, they are bad. Don't give those to kids. They're just bad. It's a personal opinion. Had to share my opinion. Once again, Coach, let me give you a brief few seconds to say your goodbyes and once again emphasize what you want people to take away from today's show.
No, just more than anything, know that some specials going on over here at Colorado Mesa University. As we continue to develop these guys and the future leaders of America, we're just excited. We're excited to be here and excited for this opportunity. And we need all your support. So anybody out there, like Doc said, anything is greatly appreciated. And go Mavs, that's all I got.
Absolutely. Go Mavs is the way to end the show. Hey, have a great day, everybody. Happy Easter to you, Passover and Ramadan. Whatever level of spirit gets inside of you, make it real and share it with others so that they know exactly how you feel about them. It's been a great day today. Have a wonderful, wonderful day in Colorado and all over the globe. Take care, everybody.